introduced to North America at Quebec, Canada, via Irish immigrants from the Great Famine. In this pandemic, Brazil was affected for the first time. The fourth pandemic lasted from 1863 to 1875, spreading from India to Naples and Spain, and reaching the United States at New Orleans, Louisiana in 1873. It spread throughout the Mississippi River system on the continent. The fifth pandemic was from 1881 to 1896. It started in India and spread to Europe, Asia, and South America. The sixth pandemic ran from 1899 to 1923. These epidemics had a lower number of fatalities because physicians and researchers had a greater understanding of the cholera bacteria. Egypt, the Arabian Peninsula, Persia, India, and the Philippines were hit hardest during these epidemics. Other areas, such as Germany in 1892, primarily the city of Hamburg, where more than 8.600 people died, 99, and Naples from 1910 to 1911, also had severe outbreaks. The seventh pandemic originated in 1961 in Indonesia and is marked by the emergence of a new strain nicknamed L-Tor, which still persists, as of 2018, 100, in developing countries. 101. This pandemic had initially subsided about 1975 and was thought to have ended, but, as noted, it has persisted. There were a rise in cases in the 1990s and since. Cholera became widespread in the 19th century. 102. Since then it has killed tens of millions of people. 103. In Russia alone, between 1847 and 1851, more than 1 million people died from the disease. 104. It killed 150,000 Americans during the second pandemic. 105. Between 1900 and 1920, perhaps 8 million people died of cholera in India. 106. Cholera officially became the first reportable disease in the United States due to the significant effects it had on health. 17. John Snow, in England, in 1854 was the first to identify the importance of contaminated water as its source of transmission. 17. Cholera is now no longer considered a pressing health threat in Europe and North America due to filtering and chlorination of water supplies, but it still strongly affects populations in developing countries. In the past, vessels flew a yellow quarantine flag if any crew members or passengers had cholera. No one aboard a vessel flying a yellow flag would be allowed ashore for an extended period, typically 30 to 40 days. 107. Historically, many different claimed remedies have existed in folklore. Many of the older remedies were based on the miasma theory, that the disease was transmitted by bad air. Some believed that abdominal chilling made one more susceptible, and flannel and cholera belts were included in army kits. 108. In the 1854-1855 outbreak in Naples, homeopathic camphor was used according to Hahnemann. 109. T.J. Ritter's Mother's Remedies book lists tomato syrup as a home remedy from Northern America. In the Campagnu as recommended in the United Kingdom, according to William Thomas Fernie. 110. The first effective Elman vaccine was developed in 1885, and the first effective antibiotic was developed in 1948. Cholera cases are much less frequent in developed countries where governments have helped to establish water sanitation practices and effective medical treatments. 111. In the 19th century, the United States, for example, had a severe cholera problem similar to those in some developing countries. It had 3 larger cholera outbreaks in the 1800s, which can be attributed to Vibrio cholerae spread through interior waterways such as the Erie Canal and the extensive Mississippi River Valley system, as well as the major ports along the eastern seaboard and their cities upriver. 112. The island of Manhattan in New York City touches the Atlantic Ocean, where cholera collected from river waters and ship discharges just off the coast. At this time, New York City did not have as effective a sanitation system as it developed in the later 20th century, so cholera spread through the city's water supply. 113. Cholera morbus is a historical term that was used to refer to gastroenteritis rather than specifically to what is now defined as the disease of cholera. 15. Drawing of death bringing cholera, in Le Petit Journal, 1912. Drawing of death bringing cholera, in Le Petit Journal, 1912. Emperor Pedro II of Brazil visiting people with cholera in 1855. Emperor Pedro II of Brazil visiting people with cholera in 1855. Handbill from the New York City Board of Health, 1832. The outdated public health advice demonstrates the lack of understanding of the disease and its causative factors. Handbill from the New York City Board of Health, 1832. The updated public health advice demonstrates lack of understanding of the disease and its causative factors. Research. One of the major contributions to fighting cholera was made by the physician and pioneer medical scientist John Snow, 1813-1858, who in 1854 found a link between cholera and contaminated drinking water. 94. Dr. Snow proposed a microbial origin for epidemic cholera in 1849. In his major state-of-the-art review of 1855, he proposed a substantially complete and correct model for the cause of the disease. In pioneering epidemiological field studies, he was able to demonstrate human sewage contamination was the Robert Koch, third from the right, on a cholera search expedition in Egypt in 1884, 1 year after he identified V. cholerae. How to avoid the cholera leaflet, Aberystwyth, August 1849. Most probable disease vector in two major epidemics in London in 1854. 114. His model was not immediately accepted, but it was increasingly seen as plausible as medical microbiology developed over the next 30 years or so. For his work on cholera, John Snow is often regarded as the father of epidemiology. 115, 116, 117. The bacterium was isolated in 1854 by Italian anatomist Filippo Pasini, 118, but its exact nature and his results were not widely known. In the same year, the Catalan Joaquim Balcells I Pascual discovered the bacterium. 119, 120. In 1856 Antonio Augusto da Costa Simões and José Ferreira de Macedo Pinto, two Portuguese researchers, are believed to have done the same. 119, 121. Between the mid-1850s and the 1900s, cities in developed nations made massive investment in clean water supply and well-separated sewage treatment infrastructures. This eliminated the threat of cholera epidemics from the major developed cities in the world. In 1883, Robert Koch identified V. cholerae with a microscope as the bacillus causing the disease. 122. Hemendranath Chatterjee, a Bengali scientist, was first to formulate and demonstrate the effectiveness of oral rehydration salt, ORS, to treat diarrhea. In his 1953 paper, published in The Lancet, he states bacromedazine can stop vomiting during cholera and thin oral rehydration is possible. The formulation of the fluid replacement solution was 4g of sodium chloride, 25g of glucose and 1000 milliliters of water. 123, 124. Indian medical scientist Sambhu Nafta discovered the cholera toxin, the animal model of cholera, and successfully demonstrated the method of transmission of cholera pathogen Vibrio cholerae. 125. Robert Allen Phillips, working at U.S. Naval Medical Research Unit 2 in Southeast Asia, evaluated the pathophysiology of the disease using modern laboratory chemistry techniques. He developed a protocol for rehydration. His research led the Lasker Foundation to award him its prize in 1967. 126. More recently, in 2002, Alam, et al. Studied stool samples from patients at the International Center for Diarrheal Disease in Dhaka, Bangladesh. From the various experiments they conducted, the researchers found a correlation between the passage of E. cholerae through the human digestive system and an increased infectivity state. Furthermore, the researchers found the bacterium creates a hyperinfected state genes that control biosynthesis of amino acids, ion uptake systems, and formation of periplasmic. Professor Sambhu Nafta, who discovered the cholera toxin and successfully demonstrated the transmission of cholera pathogen by bacterial enteric toxin nitrate reductase complexes were induced just before defecation. These induced characteristics allow the cholera vibrios to survive in thrice water stools, an environment of limited oxygen and iron of patients with a cholera infection. 127. Global strategy. In 2017, the WHO launched the Ending Cholera, a global roadmap to 2030 strategy which aims to reduce cholera deaths by 90% by 2030. 128. The strategy was developed by the Global Task Force on Cholera Control, GTFCC, which develops country-specific plans and monitors progress. 129. The approach to achieve this goal combines surveillance, water sanitation, rehydration treatment and oral vaccines. 128. Specifically, the control strategy focuses on 3 approaches: I. Early detection and response. 2. Outbreaks to contain outbreaks. 2. Stopping cholera transmission through improved sanitation and vaccines in hotspots. And 3. A global framework for cholera control through the GTFCC. 128. The WHO and the GTFCC do not consider global cholera eradication a viable goal. 130. Even though humans are the only host of cholera, the bacterium can persist in the environment without a human host. 131. While global eradication is not possible, elimination of human-to-human transmission may be possible. 131. Local elimination is possible, which has been underway most recently during the 2010 Haiti cholera outbreak. Haiti aims to achieve certification elimination by 2022. 132. The GTFCC targets 47 countries, 13 of which have established vaccination campaigns. 89. Society and culture. Health policy. In many developing countries, cholera still reaches its victims through contaminated water sources, and countries without proper sanitation techniques have greater incidence of the disease. 133. Governments can play a role in this. In 2008, for example, the Zimbabwean cholera outbreak was due partly to the government's role, according to a report from the James Baker Institute. 22. The Haitian government's inability to provide safe drinking water after the 2010 earthquake led to an increase in cholera cases as well. 134. Similarly, South Africa's cholera outbreak was exacerbated by the government's policy of privatizing water programs. The wealthy elite of the country were able to afford safe water while others had to use water from cholera-infected rivers. 135. According to Rita Colwell of the James Baker Institute, if cholera does begin to spread, government preparedness is crucial. A government's ability to contain the disease before it extends to other areas can prevent a high death toll and the development of an epidemic or even pandemic. Effective disease surveillance can ensure that cholera outbreaks are recognized as soon as possible and dealt with appropriately. Oftentimes, this will allow public health programs to determine and control the cause of the cases, whether it is unsanitary water or seafood that have accumulated a lot of Vibrio cholerae specimens. 22. Having an effective surveillance program contributes to a government's ability to prevent cholera from spreading. In the year 2000 in the state of Kerala in India, the Kottayam district was determined to be cholera affected. This pronouncement led to task forces that concentrated on education